And that honestly scares the crap out of me. If our system doesn't work for all of us, then it works for none of us. Let me ask you a question. Would you feel the same if this was your daughter or one of your family members? Would you be fine leaving the courtroom thinking your husband or wife was convicted on a gut feeling with no proof? Richard Allen places himself at the bridge during the time of the attack. They have over 60 confessions and I'm just a moron. So welcome to the point. Let's get to it. Everything said here is alleged. Please do your own research, form your own opinion, and let me know that opinion because this is an open discussion channel where we try to be fair. And if more fair coverage on this story and others is something you're lacking, subscribe to this channel and hit that like button down below. Because we need to face some hard realities here. They have recorded confessions. Let's stop pretending like they don't. And I'm not blissfully ignoring it, but I think we have some things going on in this story that a lot of people are just afraid to say, that we'll get to in just a minute. But let's look at these confessions fairly. The state is alleging that these confessions from Richard Allen contain detailed information that only the suspect would know. And since they have this stuff on video, that proves their case against Richard Allen. He's their guy. That's what's been reported, and if it holds up in court, then absolutely, Richard Allen did it. If there is no logical reason to explain why Richard Allen would possibly confess, and that not be an actual confession, then yes, Richard Allen confessed. I'll say it, I'll admit it, that means he did it. But if we're going to talk about this stuff fairly, let's talk about it fairly. When did these recorded confessions take place? They took place at a time when he was heavily medicated and isolated. He was under a great deal of stress. I mean, my lord, the dude was placed in solitary confinement at a prison. And to give you guys some perspective here, you won't find any videos from me making these same arguments for Wade Wilson. There is a difference between the two. The fact is, false confessions are a thing. They do happen. And that man, Richard Allen, was heavily medicated. There's no denying it. And a man that's heavily medicated who's already been given key details about this case through law enforcement could very easily in a medicated state repeat certain things. My God, people, they threw a man in prison who hadn't even been convicted of anything. What on earth is wrong with y'all? How is this okay? Have we heard any confessions from him since he's been moved to an appropriate facility? I haven't heard, read, or seen any reports saying anything like that. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That is possible. You can let me know because this is an open discussion channel. But Richard Allen's initial statements to law enforcement didn't place him on the bridge at the time of the attack. They placed him at the park the day of the attack and leaving at or almost leaving when this attack occurred. And now's when I'll get the comments about what Richard Allen supposedly told law enforcement before his arrest. Because we've all seen the reports stating that Richard Allen told law enforcement he was there on the bridge during the time of this attack. And if that interview was done differently, I might be more inclined to agree with you. Once again, I'm not making these same arguments for Wade Wilson. Wade confessed on recorded lines. In fact, he was willing to confess to those crimes for a burger. But what am I talking about when I say Richard Allen's interview was conducted differently? Before I get to the harsh reality that may be on the horizon. Holman's groundbreaking interview that has fueled headlines for years was conducted using the Reid technique, which is a guilt presumptive model used to elicit confessions. But as it turns out, it elicits false confessions at an alarming rate.
The Reid technique is a police interrogation method that has been criticized for leading to false confessions and being based on assumptions that are not supported by evidence. False confessions. The Reid technique is an accusatorial interrogation that starts with the assumption that the suspect is guilty.
Now, if you want a good breakdown of this technique from a person much smarter than me, go down to the description section after you watch this video and check that link out. But I am getting the vibe that a lot of y'all are scared to face the reality that Richard Allen might not be guilty. He may not have done this. Or you think he did it because the news said so. And you're fine if they don't prove it because you've got a gut feeling. And that honestly scares the crap out of me. If our system doesn't work for all of us, then it works for none of us. Let me ask you a question. Would you feel the same if this was your daughter or one of your family members? Would you be fine leaving the courtroom thinking your husband or wife was convicted on a gut feeling with no proof? Or would you say, where's the proof? Because that's how this thing is laying out. I didn't want to jump the gun here on the DNA expert because you never know what's going to be said until it's said. But law enforcement has already confirmed there is no DNA found at the crime scene linking that crime scene to Richard Allen. Nor do they have any DNA found inside Richard Allen's home or car linking him to the crime, linking him to Abby and Libby. In fact, while we're here and on the subject, this is the most recent update. The state's DNA expert has just testified on the stand that there was no SA. And that isn't the shocker because I believe a lot of us thought that wasn't the case to begin with. But here's what's odd about what she said on stand. She found possible evidence of male DNA, but she said that the amount found was insufficient, which honestly isn't sitting right with me. Were these tests ran back in 2017 or did they use modern technology? If we're all here because we want the truth, we want the facts, and we are trying to pursue the truth, I believe this is a valid question. How recent were these tests done? What technology did they use? But the key to this whole case was that unspent cartridge found at the scene. And wouldn't you know it was difficult to get a sample from that. They did at some point test the hair that they didn't originally test. All because Holman said on the stand that they didn't have a female suspect, which should have a lot of people scratching their heads right now. You test the evidence to find a suspect. You don't find a suspect and then say we're going to test this or not test that. That is not how this process goes, and that's what I was saying yesterday. I mean, seriously, is it just me or is this the dumbest crap you've ever heard? But the hair that was tested positive to be Libby's sister, which is a whole nother rabbit hole of speculation that I'm just not going to go down on this particular video, and I'm probably not going to go down that road on this channel. But the big takeaway here that validated a lot of people's fears and a lot of people's concerns is none of this stuff tested positive for Richard Allen. It is now official. It's not speculation. It's not anybody's guess. It is in the court record. None of this stuff tested positive to be Richard Allen's DNA. All we know is they found insufficient male DNA at the scene, which once again, I don't get how anybody feels good about that. So you're saying if that was your child on trial, you would be fine with him being found guilty based off an interrogation technique that is known to cause issues and no physical evidence found. I mean, to me, that's just absolutely crazy. Listen, people, I don't want a guilty person to walk. I want justice the way our Constitution says it's supposed to be. And if we convict people based off of a gut feeling, that is a very slippery slope. And I promise, if your family member was in that situation, you wouldn't be sitting here saying, I'm good with a gut feeling. I'm good with no evidence. I'm good with this nonsense of a trial. I'm good with them withholding evidence. I mean, make that make sense. Put yourself in the shoes of another person. Imagine that was your family member. I just want proof here. I don't want vengeance. And if vengeance is your deal, well, that's your right because this is a free country. But maybe this ain't the channel for you. Now, the trial's not over. Maybe we'll get some sort of bombshell information that'll have us all sitting on the same page. And we can all collectively say one way or the other, either yes or no. And if it happens, it happens. Y'all be safe now.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.